Guys noticed the price of everyday goods going up over the past year?
Not really.
Not too much since I just moved here.
I have not necessarily noticed.
When I started this channel, I thought that logic and reason is what gets the masses on your side. If only you possess a logical argument, you're going to persuade people that their way of thinking is wrong and your way of thinking is right. But it turns out that's not the case. In fact, in the America, there is this saying that if you're a young person and you don't vote left, then you don't have a heart. But if you're an old person and you don't vote right, then you don't have a brain. And I'm starting to see that the solution to the problem is empathy. Empathy means having the possibility of placing yourself into another person's shoes and try to see and think the world the way they see and think the world. So in other words, if you want to tackle a difficult subject, you need to first look at who the target audience is and frame the subject in a way that they're actually going to care. My perfect example was when I was talking to a right-winger who didn't like the fact that a lot of people are posting degenerate fetishes on their Twitter accounts. Like they're posting anime hentai, you know, like girls with big boobies and whatnot. And he found it to be degenerate. He didn't like it. He didn't like going on Twitter and seeing all these people post that. And the way I explained to him the problem is like, look, if you're going to call these people degenerates, they're not going to care. But you need to understand these people from their way of thinking. You're talking about young adults who have a lot of pent-up sexual energy. They can't get a woman in real life, so they channel that energy through social media, and that is their expression. If you want them to stop, you need to reach to them and tell them, look, if you're ever going to have a girlfriend, if you're ever going to speak with a woman in real life, the first thing she's going to do is she's probably going to check on your social media. And when she sees the degenerate stuff that you're posting there, she's probably going to stop talking to you. No woman likes to look at a man that's drooling from the mouth. And I actually managed to reach some people, and they actually cleaned up their social media history because they knew I was right. And that's how you actually reach people. You don't use your logic upon them. You try to see their way of thinking and try to reach to some way that they care about. Now, in this particular video, is trying to reach college students about inflation. Now, college students, most of them, the overwhelming amount, they don't really have their own money. They're not earning money. They get money from mommy and daddy. And because they get money from mommy and daddy, they don't really care about the value of a dollar. So when they do politics, when they're thinking about political issues, the economy is probably the last thing on their mind. Because I've been a college student at one point in my life. You probably are one or have been one. And you know that if not you, then your colleagues have this mindset. They don't really care. They don't usually do the groceries anymore. They don't go shopping anymore. They usually order food. They order takeout. They order from online. Or they go to restaurants. They go to these places where you can buy a hamburger, you can buy some fast food, and that's how they eat. And if the restaurants have higher prices, then the last thing on their mind is going to be, oh, inflation. Oh, it's the carbon credits that makes gas more expensive, which makes everything else more expensive. They don't care about these things. So how can you reach these kids? How can you make them care about inflation?
What if I told you guys that the price of beer went up 70% over the past year?
That's crazy.
That's a lot. That's a lot of percent.
It makes having a fun night more expensive.
Oh no. Poor college students.
That's atrocious.
So I gotta say, campus reform is doing God's work because it actually shows to people how you can connect and reach a younger audience in order to convince them that certain policies that they might be supporting are actually harming them. Because yeah, you know, when you're on a college campus and you want to do the college campus life, the price of beer is actually very important. Hey, you want to go out on a date? Where are you going to go? Well, you're going to go into a place like a bar or something. And, well, you might want to order some drinks. So, look, the prices are up. Now you need to pay more for that. And beer isn't just the only one, you know, like this is an example, but you can talk about PlayStation, you can talk about the console prices, video game prices, like all these things that you probably don't care about, and you're like, oh, who cares, you know, it's like, oh, video games, They care about them. Like, they genuinely care about them, and in order to reach these kids, you have to find out what their passions are, and you have to explain to them how the politics that they're supporting are actually affecting their hobbies, how it actually hurts their dollar, how it actually affects their wallet. If you don't do that, you might lecture and you might preach, but you're just going to seem like an old man yelling at the sky. You're not going to convince many people on your side. So this is what I want you guys to take from this video. And whenever you're trying to persuade someone, whenever you're trying to sway someone's mind of politics, you need to start thinking like they do. You need to start understanding why they care about, and you need to start, yes, I know, very evil term, subverting their expectations. I kid. No, but it's usually not like subverting, genuinely showing it's like, hey, you care about this? Well, look how bad it is. Like, for example, if I want to talk about immigration, and I spoke with a very progressive person from Germany. It's a family member of mine. He left Romania in order to get a job in Germany, and, you know, he's a very progressive guy. And as we're sitting at the dinner table, he starts talking about how evil Viktor Orban is. Viktor Orban doesn't accept refugees, and he's an evil, evil man. Now, the way the right-wingers would do it is like, oh, talk about the economy and how the blah, blah, blah. And I'm pretty sure like he would have had his arguments at the ready, but I took a different approach. I said, right, so did you visit your grandmother? And he's like, yeah. You know, she was crying last year because she can't see you. And he's like, well, you know, it's like, what can I do? I can't come here as often as I'd like. And it's like, yeah, but you know that she's suffering from depression. And you know that in her village, there's almost no one there. Like, almost everyone that's there is part of the elderly. Like, there's no one there to help her out. The pension is very low. Why do you think that is? And, you know, like, he genuinely didn't have an answer. And I explained to him, it's because everyone in Romania from that village has left for greener pastures. Because the opportunity to leave was available, a lot of people have left. Now, I don't blame the people who left, but the question is, like, what's happening with the people that stay? Is it, like, a lot of misery being brought into the country because there is no more younger generation to care for the elderly? Like, no one is there to pay their pension, doctors are leaving, all of the smart people are leaving as well. Since the start of the Open Borders Initiative with the European Union, 4 million Romanians have left. And 4 million more are going to leave in the future. That's 8 million people. That's more than we lost in World War I and World War II. And these are the young people, the one with capital, the one that can reinvest. And he actually started seeing things from a different perspective. Like when I put it like that, and it's just, yeah, like people are leaving, and the ones that leave might have a good job where they're going. But the ones that are staying are definitely going to be worse off because there's no one here to build. And then I also showed them a couple of videos on how Romanians are being treated in Germany and in the United Kingdom, especially the asparagus scandal. For those of you who don't know, like during the height of the pandemic, all the businesses here were shut down because of COVID. But in one of the hot spots, in one of the worst places where the infection hit the worst, you had the government sending buses and taking people from there to the airport so that they can pick asparagus in Germany. And when they reached Germany, their IDs were confiscated. They couldn't leave the plantation. In fact, there were articles in Germany saying Romanians have ran away from the plantation because, well, you know, it's a pandemic. You can't move freely. It was a quarantine. And as they reached the plantation, the business where they were supposed to work at, their wage was renegotiated. Because, like, the corporation owner was like, well, you know, I mean, what can they do if they don't like it? They can't leave. It's a quarantine outside. Planes aren't flying. They're going to have to work for less. Right? So, gross human rights violations. This is happening everywhere. And by the way, Romania is probably doing gross human rights violations to other people, like the ones that we take from Nepal. And it's like, it's this corporate system that you're supporting. And, you know, like, you use these arguments, and they really don't know what to say because they genuinely care about immigrants. And when you're showing, look, that immigrants are treated poorly. Countries don't want immigrants because they're compassionate. No, they want immigrants out of cynicism. And you manage to change the mind. Now let's see if campus reform managed to change the mind of the students by telling them that the price of beer has gone up.
Are you more concerned about inflation now?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little more concerned.
Life's gonna get a little more expensive, I guess.